You are being taxed, right now, and most of you don't even know it. Not by your state, not by your city, not even by Congress. By a single man, using an executive order, and the highest court in the land just said, stop. Welcome back. If you've been watching this channel, you know we've been tracking what I believe is the most financially significant story of our generation. And today it just got a lot more complicated. Today is February 28th, 2026, and here is what happened just this week. Trump's brand new 10% global tariff, officially in effect as of Tuesday. Over 1,000 major companies, including names you shop at every day, are now suing the U.S. government for a refund. The Federal Reserve confirmed 90% of all tariffs are paid by you, the American consumer, not foreign countries. Democrats just introduced a bill demanding a $1,700 check for every American. And a landmark economic study just called Trump's tariffs the largest U.S. tax increase as a percentage of GDP since 1993. Oh, and silver? Silver just staged a jaw-dropping recovery after one of the most violent price crashes in precious metal history, and it's now trading close to $100 an ounce as we speak. Stay with me, because what I'm about to lay out connects all of this: tariffs, lawsuits, inflation, your paycheck, and why silver may be the most important asset you're not watching right now. Let's break it down. To understand everything happening right now, we have to go back to February 20th, 2026. That is the day the United States Supreme Court dropped a 6-3 ruling that shocked Wall Street, rattled the White House, and sent shockwaves across global financial markets. The ruling was simple and historic. The International Emergency Economic Powers Act, known as IEEPA, does not authorize the president to impose tariffs, full stop. For those of you who aren't familiar with IEEPA, that's the law President Trump used to justify imposing sweeping tariffs on goods coming from China, Canada, Mexico, the European Union, and dozens of other countries. We're talking about tariffs that were anywhere from 25% to over 100%, some of the most aggressive trade barriers this country has seen in nearly a century. The Supreme Court, in one fell swoop, said, "The president overstepped. Congress has constitutional authority over tariffs. The executive branch can't just unilaterally tax the entire world without congressional approval." Now, here's where it gets interesting. Trump didn't wait. Within hours of that ruling, he signed an executive order imposing a brand new 10% universal tariff on virtually all imports, this time using Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974. Section 122 is a different law. It allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15% for up to 150 days to address trade deficits. After 150 days, the clock runs out, and Congress would have to vote to extend them. So Trump basically swapped out his old legal tool for a new one. Different statute, same goal. And he's already threatening to push the rate from 10% up to 15%. His top trade advisor, Jameson Greer, told Fox Business that bump is coming, and it will hit certain countries first, quote, where appropriate. But here's the kicker. Because the Supreme Court invalidated the old tariffs, all that money collected under IEEPA, over $175 billion according to Penn Wharton estimates, is now technically on the table for refunds. We are potentially talking about the largest government refund in American economic history, and companies are already racing to the courthouse. Here's something you probably did not see on your mainstream newsfeed this week. More than 1,000 American companies, and the number is still climbing as we record this, have now filed lawsuits against the United States government seeking full refunds for every single dollar they paid in tariffs under the overturned IEEPA orders. And we're not talking about small businesses here. We're talking about household names, companies you interact with every single week. Costco, the warehouse giant you trust for bulk groceries and cheap gas, they filed. FedEx, the shipping company that delivers your Amazon packages, they filed. Goodyear, the tires on your car, they filed. Hasbro, your kids' toys, they filed. FedEx was actually one of the first out the gate. They went straight to court seeking, and I'm quoting, a full refund of all tariffs it paid to the government. And then just this week, FedEx went even further, saying they would pass those refunds directly to their customers if the money comes through. Meanwhile, Lowe's CEO Marvin Ellison told Yahoo Finance's Brooke DePalma something very telling. He said Lowe's did not file a lawsuit, and why? Because, quoting him, there are quite a few maneuvers the administration can take to prevent a refund from being a reality in the near term. Translation: even these CEOs know this fight is going to be a long, ugly battle in the courts, and that uncertainty alone is affecting how companies plan their finances for 2026. But here's the jaw-dropping number. According to the Financial Times, the total potential refund liability to the U.S. government could exceed $160 billion. $160 billion. Now think about what that means. That's money that was collected from importers, money that, as we're about to show you, ultimately came out of your pocket at the grocery store, at the auto dealer, at every checkout line in America. And the process to actually get those refunds? According to Yahoo Finance's own reporting, it's, quote, murky and could take years to play out in court. Years, while the average American is already struggling with costs rising every single month. Now, I want to stop right here because this is the part of the story that should make every single American's blood boil, regardless of your politics. One of the most persistent arguments used to justify Trump's tariffs was this: foreign countries are paying, China is paying, Canada is paying, it's not costing you a dime. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York has now officially destroyed that argument. After studying the full 2025 tariff data, the Fed found that American consumers and businesses bore approximately 90% of the total cost of President Trump's tariffs. Not China, not Canada, not the European Union. How did this happen? When tariffs are placed on imported goods, the businesses importing those goods face higher costs. And what do businesses do with higher costs? They pass them on to consumers through higher prices at the store, higher shipping rates, higher costs for parts and components. The average U.S. tariff rate rose from just 2.6%, where it was before all of this began, to 13%. That's an increase of more than 10 percentage points on practically everything coming into this country. The Tax Foundation, a nonpartisan organization that has studied tax policy for 85 years, took that data and ran the numbers, and what they found is extraordinary. Trump's tariffs represent the largest United States tax increase as a percentage of GDP since 1993. The study puts the figure at 0.54% of GDP for 2026 alone, and it's projected to raise $2 trillion in revenue between 2026 and 2035 if the tariffs hold. But you know what 0.54% of GDP translates to in real dollars for a real family? The Tax Foundation estimates the average American household paid about $1,000 extra in 2025 because of these tariffs. And in 2026, even with the Supreme Court ruling, even with the new lower 10% rate, the average household is expected to pay $1,300 more this year. Now you might be saying, well, $1,300, that's not that much. But think about this. That's $1,300 that could have gone toward your kids' school supplies, your car repair, your health insurance, your retirement savings. And more importantly, that money didn't go to pay down the national debt or fund schools or build roads. A huge portion of it went toward a policy that the Supreme Court just declared illegal. That is why Democrats are now introducing what they're calling the Payback Act, a bill demanding that every American receive a $1,700 tariff refund check. Yes, $1,700. New York Governor Kathy Hochul and other Democrats are pushing this hard. Will it pass? Almost certainly not with Republicans in control. But the political pressure? That is very real. And by the way, the American public is not with Trump on this one. A brand new ABC News Washington Post Ipsos poll out just this week found that 64% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of tariffs. Only 34% approve. That's nearly 2-to-1 opposition. Even at the State of the Union this week, Trump doubled down, claiming tariffs will eventually substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax. But economists immediately pushed back. Tariffs have been bringing in roughly $30 billion a month. Total federal income tax revenue, about $200 billion a month. The math simply doesn't add up.